So there's a belief that's going around that sounds responsible, but quietly it keeps some of the smartest people stuck. And that belief is this: it's, I just need more clarity before I move. But here's the thing: clarity doesn't come before action. It's kind of like I compare it with confidence too. You don't have confidence before you do a thing. You do a thing, and then the confidence comes. In the same way, clarity is something that doesn't come until there's an action. And you see this myth; it's convincing people that in such a way that it feels like it's mature, right? It sounds thoughtful, strategic, responsible. It sounds prudent. It sounds all these good things. But especially if you're a high performer, you don't want to be reckless. You don't want to make mistakes. You don't want to waste energy. You don't want to make the wrong call. So you wait, you prepare, you refine, tweak, 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 tweak. You think, right? Maybe you get opinions, and then without realizing it, you stall. And sometimes this is perceived in maybe some kind of a stuck state. I feel like I'm stuck, or I feel like I'm procrastinating. Like all those different things become the labels to all of this. And here's the distinction that most people miss: they think that thinking creates options, movement creates information. Let me say that again. Thinking creates options. And I've talked about this before. When you have many options, it's hard to make a decision. Movement creates information. And this is because clarity is made of information, not ideas. You don't need any more ideas. You just need a little bit more information. And I want to unpack that for you, because this is a thing that I've struggled for so long myself. I'm super creative. I'm super open. I've been to a lot of places, done a lot of things, been around a lot of people. So I can see a lot of things beyond what we can actually see. My brain will pattern match, but it will do it in multiplicity. Well, if we do this, then if we do this, and I've found myself lacking clarity and then not taking any action. So I stay in this stuck state. So we don't need more certainty to move into a thing. We just need more data. So let me explain what that means. Data only shows up after you take the first step. It's like you take the first step and something else will reveal itself. That becomes the data. And like I said, I've lived this in so many realms. There were seasons when I delayed important moves because I was waiting for the certainty. That showed up in different things in my past of like, oh, do I take this job? Do I take that job? Like that's pretty surface level. But then when I had my own company, it was like, who goes where and what talent and skill needs to be in this place or this place? And then I try and like map that all out. And then I didn't make decisions, and then someone would get disappointed or get, felt like they didn't get moved fast enough. Like that's an issue. There are other areas where I had a plan that wasn't complete yet. The timing didn't feel perfect. I just wanted to be sure. Let's make sure we do this thing. And by the time I pulled the trigger, the venue I wanted to do it at was no longer available. And I had to find somewhere else. So all that time I was telling myself I'm being responsible. I don't know, how many people are going to show up. I don't know, what the needs are for the venue in terms of, are we going to serve food? Are we going to have sound? Are we going to use video? Like I was making all these different things, and all of that kept me from getting the location that I wanted. And so what I was actually doing in that context and in many other contexts is I'm protecting something. If I step here and I have to backtrack, I don't want to look stupid. if I step here and I make the wrong decisions, I don't want to be perceived as someone who doesn't know what they're doing. If I do this and it doesn't work out, I don't want someone to think that I'm a screw up, I'm a failure. And I've had massive failures, but still that's in my head. It's an identity. I'm protecting an ego. I'm trying to protect something about myself and my ability, but I would dare say my own self-belief. And I think that's the thing that people are afraid to say, is that sometimes we don't believe in ourselves enough to take that next step. We don't trust ourselves. We don't trust our instinct. We don't trust our gut. Now, we did for a season. We did when we were younger. We did when there was less at stake. We did when there was less risk. But as we've grown our businesses, as we've grown our lives, as we've built a nest egg of, our own wealth, social capital, business momentum, whatever, that risk starts to feel real on some other ego identity level. And because movement risks being wrong, that feels like a massive thing. And this is where founders get trapped. This is where leaders start to get in the mud. They confuse preparation with progress. Yeah, you can go and tweak with that deck all you want. It gets cleaner, it gets prettier, it gets nicer, it gets more colorful. You can get the notes and frame it all out and make it sharper and make it more articulate and make it more profound. You can play with frameworks so they get tighter and more SOPs and more descriptive. Like, nothing actually changes when you're buried in the work. It's like going into ChatGPT or into Gemini or to whatever your favorite AI tool is, and then you just keep pulling apart. And what about this angle? And what about this? And what about this angle? Until whatever the end result is, you're so convinced that this thing is so great. And then you go to bed and you come back the next day and you look at it and you're like, that doesn't make any sense. That's not where I really need to be. But in the moment, you were doing something what you perceived was responsible in doing all of that preparation, but you actually weren't making any progress. And so the very thing that you wrote down in your journal that I have to get done today didn't get done today. See, preparation feels safe. On some level, it preserves a self-interest, a self-image. Movement exposes some kind of a reality. Movement exposes whether the idea is good, whether people will bite, well, people will buy, people will accept. Because the data is only found once you get it out into the world, once you get it out of your head, once you get it out into the marketplace. It's why marketing sometimes gets to be so fluffy, because marketing is all about everybody that's in the room. And we're like, oh, we're getting all excited and frothy. But the moment you go to the market rejects it. And you took 6 months to put that plan together when you could have done it in maybe 6 weeks and had the market tell you it's a bad idea and you need to tweak it, right? This is what slows this whole thing down. Clarity is not the prerequisite for whatever it is that you're doing. Clarity is the byproduct. You can't tell yourself, well, I will take that leap, I will take that step, I will make when I have clarity. Clarity only shows up after you choose. This is the direction we're going. And in so many areas of our lives, it's not until you choose this thing that other things can come into play. You just have to take that first step, and it's something like the universe starts to work to attract or create or a serendipity to be a part of the actual creation of the thing. Then the clarity comes. So you first have to get a direction and move in that direction. Take that first step. And again, like I said, this next step will reveal itself. After you speak the truth, get your truth out there. After you take that step, after you make that movement, after you tolerate the discomfort of not knowing, that's actually when the clarity sharpens. That's actually where you get to know what's actually happening, what's actually at play. Waiting for clarity for you on some level will feel like control, but it's actually you avoiding whatever consequence, whatever feedback you think is out there, and then you're disguising it as wisdom. God, this hurts, even me saying this, because it hits so close to home, because I've been guilty of it in the past so much. And even me doing videos right now, doing all these videos, is me not getting in my own way. This is me not trying to have a perfect plan. This is me not having a perfect iteration. Some of these videos that I'm recording right now are not perfect. I'm not editing any of them. As you've seen, there's no jump cuts. I'm doing this on purpose. I want to be human. And I'm doing a huge experiment at the risk of my whole business so that I can connect with people on a human level and not make it something where I've AI generated a script, a voice, an avatar, blah, blah, blah. So I'm actively doing what I'm telling you. If I tried to maintain control and get this right, it would be months before I shot the first video. And even when I shot the first video, I probably would have to do 17 takes. And then we'd have to piece and parcel it all together because I want to make it perfect. Nothing's going to guarantee the outcome. You just have to take action. So leadership says, I will move and I will adapt. Get it out there. For instance, in this case, I'm getting these videos out there, and like, do people like them? Do they engage? Do they watch them? Does the algorithm pick up on them? Are these titles the right thing? Are the thumbnails, like people reacting to thumbnails? So I'm A/B testing, blah, 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 blah. Like, the momentum doesn't come from the certainty. The momentum, it comes from the commitment. Ooh, I should have started this whole video with that line. What I say, momentum doesn't come from certainty. It comes from commitment. Damn, that's a good line. So if you're stuck right now, you got to quit asking, like, what do I need to do to understand whatever the next thing is before I take action? Instead, like, start asking your question more like, what small movement will I give? Let me shape it a different way. What small action will give me the information that I need to know for the next step? What small iteration, what small step, what small action can I take to get me the information for the next thing? Not the massive leap, not the whole enchilada, just the next step. You don't have to be reckless. You don't have to swing for the fences. You just take a step. Because clarity is waiting on the other side of the movement. This clarity myth, it keeps people stalled. I just need clarity. Bullshit. You don't need clarity. Not because you're incapable, not because you're conscientious. Let me say that again. Not because you're incapable, but because you're conscientious. That's what I want to say. It's giving yourself permission to move in the direction you need to go. Because when you take the movement, that is when you'll get clarity. That is when you'll get confidence. That is where the universe will bring things in your path. Suddenly, the very thing you needed, that partnership, that product, that device, suddenly you'll see an ad. Suddenly you'll get a phone call. Suddenly you'll bump into somebody at an event. And all those parts and pieces start to come into play once you start the intention, once you start the movement, once you take the action. If this resonates with you, you're not behind, you didn't miss anything. You're just ready to move. So that's my challenge to you. Choose movement, and clarity will meet you there. So if this resonates with you, and I hope it did, because I believe it is, and that's why I'm putting it out there. I put a few single tools down together. You can check them out down below in the description to help you with clarity and resetting some of your perspective. I also want to know in the comments, what did you like? What did you need to hear? What do you want more of? I read those things and they're going to help me make this channel even better. And if you want more conversations like this, go ahead and hit subscribe. The mission here is simple. I want to help 10 million leaders take 10 minutes a day to become a 10.0 version of themselves. So decide today if you want to be one of them. And I'll see you next time.